David McMenamin from ESPN believes that the Chicago Bulls could be one of the perfect trade partners for the Los Angeles Lakers, and even reports that the Lakers are interested in both Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. We're going to break down exactly what the Lakers have to offer in the case for either one of the players, and if it's anything worth biting for the Chicago Bulls. We're also going to look at three players that I would like to see play a lot more while Patrick Williams continues to be out with injury, and we're going to preview tonight's game, NBA Cup game against the Boston Celtics. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off with this report by David McMenamin from ESPN. He said this: there are far more doors closed than had ever been in the past for the Lakers in terms of trade because of the collective bargaining agreement. He then goes on to mention as well that Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic are potential targets by this Los Angeles Lakers team, and he believes that the Lakers could be perfect trade partners with the Chicago Bulls amongst the Utah Jazz and the Hawks and some other teams that he mentioned in that case as well. Now, we're going to focus on the Bulls aspect of this, of course, because this is Chicago Bulls Central, right? Not doing an NBA Central yet. I may actually do an NBA Central topic on this. Make sure you guys subscribe over to NBA Central as well. But with that said, what does that look like, right? And it makes sense that Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic there are more teams interested in them now when you look at the seasons that they're having. I'm not going to break down into all of their numbers. We've done that. They're both having really good years. Vooch is having probably his best statistical and efficiency when you're pairing those two things in a Chicago Bulls uniform. And Zach LaVine is having the best two-way play of his NBA career, the most consistent defensive season we've seen from Zach LaVine. He's not necessarily hitting the scoring highs that he's has before, but he's really efficient on a really good true shooting percentage. The usage rate is actually down as well. So he's just being more efficient with less opportunities. And he's also passing more, defending more, doing all those type of things. So it makes sense that more teams are going to be in. And I wouldn't be surprised that if the Bulls are aggressive at moving Zach LaVine, then maybe some teams end up regretting the fact that they didn't maybe bite on him when the value was a little bit lower last year. But it still comes down to, I do not think AK and Eversley are still at the position yet where they're looking to move Zach LaVine just to move him. They do want value back. And so what a team has to offer is really important in that as well. If they were just going to sell off Zach LaVine to sell him off, they would have done that last year. They would have done it in the offseason. The whole point of this was hoping that Zach LaVine was going to show everybody, hey, I'm valuable to a team. Again, that's if they still want to move Zach LaVine, right? We had the thing on the sideline of the game where Zach LaVine said, hey, I signed in Chicago. I'm in Chicago, right? You know, when I guess a fan asked him, like, where does he want to go? So there's a lot of things, moving parts all around this. And I don't think that we have the full picture, and I don't think we ever will until a trade goes down, because if the Bulls do want to move him, I mean, they're going to keep some of that flexibility, right? They're not going to outwardly, because I think they showed their hand last year, and so they're not necessarily going to want to do that again. But while a lot of people try to mock, right, the Zach LaVine to the Lakers, I want to be clear here on what the Lakers have to offer. They only have first-round picks that they can offer in 2029 and 2031. Now, I know that people are going to hear those picks and say, that is not enough. That's too far out. But I'm just going to offer some logic. While I agree, and I do think that where the Bulls are now, they're probably going to want more immediate return on Zach LaVine than pushing it out. So I agree with you. But guys know I like to talk about things from all sides. What benefit would it have for the Bulls to have picks that are that far out? And there actually are some. One, if Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic were traded to the Los Angeles Lakers by the 2029 and 2031 season, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, for that matter, will all be off the books. Meaning that, I mean, that team could be, unless they rebuild on the fly, which, you know, I mean, I guess it's possible, especially for a team like LA, who would have thought they would have gotten LeBron, right? But unless they really rebuild on the fly or develop some young talent between now and then, there's a high probability that those 2029 and 2031 picks are probably going to be lottery picks. And, you know, again, so if the Bulls are really looking at trying to do what some other teams have done as far as when you make trades of some of your biggest players, you know, getting future assets to end up paying off for you later, if the Bulls have an appetite to not have the immediate gratification, a 2029 and 31 pick from the Lakers actually could make some sense. Now, you still have to sell your fan base on that. You still have to, look at then, okay, because it's not just going to be those picks. You still got to match the contracts. Okay, what players then are we getting back in that time? And when you look at it, because Austin Reeves is reportedly, by every stretch, everything that we've heard, not somebody that the Lakers are looking to move in these deals. They're reportedly looking to hold on to Austin Reeves. So that would make really the only assets that the Lakers have realistically. And no, Bulls fans, they're not trading Anthony Davis for Zach LaVine. The more radical Bulls fans that always think, hey, the Bulls got to get some crazy talent back for Zach, is not happening, right? So to match the salary, the Lakers have D'Angelo Russell, Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, and then Jalen Hood-Schifino. Rui Hachimura is probably another one there, but they may want to keep him for his defense. But again, that's really what you have to offer. And if you're looking at matching the salary of Zach LaVine, a trade offer of D'Angelo Russell, Gabe Vincent, and Rui Hachimura would work technically for Zach LaVine and Torrey Craig. That would work for that in that case, right? So it's then in a move like that, the Bulls would have to really, really value either one of those picks that they're getting. And, hopefully it's unprotected if you're only getting one. Maybe you can get both with protections on them, depending on how the Lakers look at this. This is really the Lakers' last opportunity to add a big-time salary to their team and still avoid the second tax apron. So, again, and I like to look at things from all sides and teams. I know this is a Bulls channel, but I'm not going to post a one-sided Bulls trade, which is what some of you guys be wanting when these trade scenario comes up. Because oh yeah, well, if we're not getting Anthony Davis in a first-round pick, why would we do it? Come on now. Come on. Let's be realistic, right? So, and that's the most realistic package that you get done with it. And the reason why, for example, I don't have Jalen Hood-Schifino in there is because he's still on a rookie scale deal. It really doesn't help knock off anything by putting Jalen Hood-Schifino in there. But, maybe they can make some permutations work. Now, in this move as well, since the Bulls are taking back more salary than they're sending out, that would mean that they'd have to waive THT to make an open roster spot to be able to take 3 players back in the place of 2 players. And THT as a bench player has been pretty solid, right? Now, I do think that these deals work on different levels. Rui Hachimura kind of fits in with that physical profile that Billy Donovan likes to play. He's definitely going to play the 4 here. Gabe Vincent and D'Angelo Russell, they're more so kind of the fillers, right? I don't see really either player being part of the Bulls' long-term plans. Now, if the Bulls are smart, which it's still more difficult. Let me not say it that way. If the Bulls are trying to take advantage of everything and not add another salary, maybe they can find a third team to take D'Angelo Russell or take Rui Hachimura or somebody like that, and not have to cut and not have to waive THD. So that's another potential aspect of this as well, right? If the Bulls wait till after January, technically they can include THT in the deal, and then the Lakers could immediately move him, and then you can get another player like a Jalen Hood-Schifino added into that deal as well. So there's a lot of different permutations of the deal that could technically work for the Bulls, but the Bulls would really have to be, again, it's still in this, the most attractive asset still in that case are the first-round picks. D'Angelo Russell, unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Jalen Hood-Schifino, not necessarily guaranteed anything. You got Rui Hachimura, who's on a contract similar to Patrick Williams. He's on contract until the end of the 2025-26 season. So there's some things that you could look at there, right? But overall, that's probably the best offer that the Lakers can put forth. They're probably not going to put in Connect in here. That's the rookie that they just got. JJ Redick seems to love this kid, so I don't see that happening. Just Max Christie maybe is a possibility there. He's under contract to 2027-28. That's just a role player, right? So there's some options there if the Bulls want to get fancy, but it all comes down to the 2029 and 2031 first-round picks. A, can you get both of them? B, if you can get both of them, what are the protections on them, right? Those are things that you have to look at as well. And considering that the Lakers will be looking at the fact that all their main core pieces are off the salary cap at that point, they'd probably at least want a top 5, top 10, maybe protections on those picks. So again, is that the value that the Bulls are looking back in a Zach LaVine deal? That's the question that's ahead there. Again, I'm not saying I have all those answers, but that's how things are looking right now for the Chicago Bulls in those areas. And I guess we'll see what the Bulls end up doing. But let me know your guys' thoughts on everything down below. Do you think that this is an offer that the Bulls could and should take a look at? if the Lakers truly do come calling and are aggressive about acquiring Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic. I'll say this. I'm way more enticed by the Lakers' assets if it is Vooch, only because Vooch is an expiring contract and an older player. If you're able to get a top 10 protected pick, I'll even say top 12 protected in 2029-31 from the Lakers and a mix of the contracts that we mentioned, I'm kind of more inclined with that. But in Zach, it makes it interesting. Let me know what you guys think down below. All right, I want to get into the next topic, in which I want to talk about players that I would like to see play more while Patrick Williams is out. We still don't have any word on Patrick Williams' return. We did get Lonzo Ball back. We'll see if Jalen Smith misses another game as well. And, of course, the first one I'm going to mention is Matas Buzelis. He's playing now on a streak of four games in a row of playing over 17 minutes. And while your 11th overall pick, it shouldn't be surprising to say that he's playing consecutive games in double-digit minutes, but it is. It's Billy Donovan. It is what it is. Matas has been very raw. But I think when you look at the fact that now that we do have Lonzo Ball back, this is part of the reason why I want to see Matas play even more, is because we have Lonzo Ball back and because of Lonzo's ability to get out in the open court. And that is where Matas Buzelis is the most dangerous, is when he's out in the open court. You look at the last few games for Matas Buzelis, those games where he's been playing over 17 minutes. He played 20 minutes against Atlanta, had 9 minutes on 3 of 8 shooting, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 1 steal. Then he followed that up against Memphis in a loss with 29 minutes. He was 6 of 13 from the field for 14 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. In those minutes, he followed that up with 17 minutes against Washington, 4 of 7 from the field with 9 points, 4 rebounds, 1 block, and 1 steal. And then 25 minutes against Orlando, only 2 of 7 from the field, but 7 points, 2 rebounds, 1 block as well. He did have 6 personal fouls in that game as well. And that's just kind of the nature of having those versatile forwards. He's gonna get in foul trouble early. We know that about Matas Buzelis. But what you're seeing there is the player that is responding to getting more minutes. And I do think that Matas, I'm not saying that he needs to start like some Bulls fans. I'm not saying that. But I do think that while Patrick Williams is out, there is a huge case. And we only got to see one game with him so far with Lonzo Ball, and he only took 1 shot in the paint. The other one was a 3-point shot. He took 5 of those, right? So I think that getting Matas in the open court is where you're going to really unlock what makes him so special on the offensive side of the ball. That weak side defense, his timing on that weak side defense is getting better. That's why you're seeing him get at least 1 block in all of the last 4 games, because he's understanding that timing more via playing minutes. Matas Buzelis needs to play more minutes for the Bulls. I know it's been a dead horse that's been beaten by just about every Bulls content creator and Bulls fan in the world, but he's the one that I got to talk about first on this list, because I think what he's shown so far is that with more minutes, he's starting to play more consistently. With more minutes, he's building more confidence. With more minutes, he's starting to understand better and what he can bring and how to impact an NBA game. That's what you want from your 11th overall pick. One of the players with the most, if not the player with the most potential still on this team and upside on this team. You want him to play a little bit more. Next one up is E.J. Liddell. And I know E.J. Liddell had that scoring spurt against Memphis where a lot of Bulls fans are like, oh my God, I want to see more of E.J. Liddell, more of E.J. Liddell. Now, he hasn't really had the greatest performances since then. Even that game against Memphis, it was 5 minutes, he scored 6 points. Of course, Bulls fans are going to be enamored by that. Washington, 2 minutes, he scored 2 points. You look at against Orlando, 17 minutes played, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 5 points, and a steal. He also got 5 personal fouls in that time as well. But when you look at E.J. Liddell and what he brings, it's the defense. What does this team lack? Really, it's defense. So far, when you look at what he's done in the G League so far, he's averaged 2 blocks per game, 16.5 points, 6 rebounds basically, and 2 assists. He's done it on fairly decent efficiency as well, 49% from the field and 50% from three-point range. He's the type of player that could be an ultimate role player for you. And again, I'm looking at the impact of defense overall. 6'6", 240 pounds. He can defend power forwards. He has that strength as well. And he can switch out to small forwards as well. He brings some of the weak side defense also and switchability. He's not necessarily a player that I want to see a whole lot of offense from in the NBA level, but I think when you're looking at how the Bulls like to play fast, how they get out in transition, how they like to create and start those fast breaks, E.J. Liddell is a player that can help that as well. And so to really see what you have in him, that's why you brought him in here, is because he's still a young player that still has some potential, and we'll see what he can turn into. And so I like E.J. Liddell in that case for the Chicago Bulls, and I think that that E.J. Liddell should definitely get more of an opportunity to play in some spot minutes. Not necessarily as many minutes as Buzelis, but definitely a player that should have an opportunity to play and perform more for you, and just to see what he can bring. Because at the end of the day, like, and what the defensive upside is in rebounding and block shots, those are things that this Bulls team has surely been lacking over the last few years. And then another one is a player that we haven't seen over this time at all, and especially with Jalen Smith and Patrick Williams potentially being out, that's Adama Sanogo, right? I understand why E.J. Liddell got the nod, and I know Sanogo has been hurt, right? But I do think that either way, I would love to see Sanogo get more opportunity. So far through his time in the G League, 18 minutes per game, basically 60% shooting, 11.5 rebounds. He's really been killing it. 1.5 blocks per game, 1 steal per game. Adama Sanogo offers the small ball type performance that Billy Donovan likes to have, while really good defense and physicality, right? And that's what you're looking for Adama. You're not looking for him to score the 18 points per game at the NBA level, but you are looking for his rebounding, the shot blocking, and the defense, the heads-up defense that he plays. And he's also a decent passer. He understands when and where to pass the ball. I think, depending on when he's healthy, of course, that's the thing here as well. Got to be fair there. It's not like they're just playing him not to play him. But Billy Donovan has talked about wanting to see Adama Sanogo more. Billy Donovan has talked about that, right? He talked about that at the beginning of the season, saying that he feels like Adama's a player that he wants to see get more NBA minutes. I think it's time, right? I think Adama is showing you everything that he needs to at the G League to earn some spot minutes, especially while your bigs are down. And I know he's dealing with the injury right now, so I'm not going to take that away from him. But I think overall, you still want to get an opportunity to just see Adama Sanogo perform a little bit more for you. And ultimately, like, hey, it's a low risk, a high potential reward. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. He's on a 2-way contract. It's a minimum contract, so it's not like it's a lot of money there. And if it doesn't work out, great. It doesn't work out. But these players that have just been lavishing around in the G League, like, and not getting an opportunity to even show what they can bring at the NBA level, that's not really taking advantage of that potential value either. So, I like to see that kind of change and grow over time for Adama Sanogo as well. Now, outside of those players, man, of course, we have a game going on tonight against the Boston Celtics. This is our last game of NBA Cup play in the group rounds, right? If the Bulls win this game, they can win the group, which is crazy enough to see. They already have a 15-point differential in their group play. If they are to win this game against the Boston Celtics, even though there are what, 3 of the 4 teams have 2-1, of the 5 teams have 2-1 records, that would help the Bulls secure their spot in the knockout round. And so it's going to be difficult, though. When you look at the Bulls injury report, it lists Kobe White with his wrist as being questionable, Dalen Terry with his ankle, Jalen Smith with his ankle, all questionable against the Celtics. And if we're missing Kobe White, even though he's been inconsistent, it just means that we're going to have to rely more on Ayo Dosunmu scoring to go along with Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, but we're also going to need a couple of people to step up off that bench, whether it's THT, Matas Buzelis, whoever it is, right? We're going to need those players to step up off the bench. This is going to be one of the games where the Bulls' margin for error here is very, very small. You're facing off against another sound defensive team, and when the Bulls do that, because they don't have that second gear to kick it into defensively, that means your offense has to be near elite, right? Meaning you got to potentially shoot 40 to 44% from three-point range is almost a must against the Boston Celtics, who are another team that takes a high volume of three-point shots and hits them at a really good rate. So that kind of benefit that the Bulls have, that plus that the Bulls have against a lot of teams where they're shooting the three ball really, really well, they're going to have that at even a higher value when it comes down to against this Boston Celtics team, because the Boston Celtics are averaging 120 points per game, and that's above the Bulls' 118 points per game. When you look at the way at the 3 points attempted by them per game as well, they're leading the league. They take 50 3-pointers per game, and the Bulls are number 3 with 42. They're hitting theirs at a 37% clip. We're hitting ours at a 38% clip. But with the volume that they're taking in that, they're making almost 3 more 3-pointers per game than the Chicago Bulls. And while those 9 points don't sound like a lot, you got to keep in mind the Bulls' defense isn't great at all by any stretch of the imagination. So the Boston Celtics also post a top 10 defense in this league. They're number 6 defensively, only allowing 109 points per game. That's why that margin of error is very, very small for the Chicago Bulls against the Boston Celtics. Now, the Bulls have actually played the Boston Celtics pretty closely over the last few years. And Lonzo has actually been one of the keys to that. But I think overall, you want to see this team really come in here and perform really well. And if they can't do that, it's going to be ugly. It is going to be absolutely ugly. And while I said that the Bulls have competed well against them, the Boston Celtics have won the last 4 matchups against the Chicago Bulls. Now, fairly close margins in those games. There's one absolute blowout, 124 to 97. So the Bulls got to be prepared in this game against the Celtics. And I'm not, I don't predict wins or losses anyway, but I definitely wouldn't predict the Bulls to win this game against the Celtics. But I tell you what, anything can happen and anything is possible. And the Bulls are going to have to come out and they are going to have to, we've seen them, be able to shoot themselves in games. This is going to have to be one of those. They're going to have to limit the turnovers because if you have the 15-plus turnovers against the Boston Celtics, you're going to get cooked off that alone because the Boston Celtics aren't a team that wastes opportunity. And so the Bulls got to be prepared in this game tonight against the Celtics. Can they do it? We'll see. Will they do it? I doubt it, but I'm going to have some hope for the team, right? And we'll see what this team does when it comes off and faces against the Boston Celtics. We will be live on the channel tonight for the pregame, halftime hangout, and postgame show, all live on the channel. So make sure you guys stay in tune with us for that. But otherwise, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullsCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.